Night in Los Angeles had a rhythm all its own, bass lines from convertibles, camera flashes like lightning, laughter sharp enough to cut through smog. Malik. Reynolds moved through it the way a diver moves through deep water. Steady, deliberate, aware that one wrong breath could drown him. He'd grown up in the south side of Atlanta, raised by a mother who believed two things: that God saw everything, and that loyalty was the only armor a black man could afford. Malik had turned that second belief into an empire. By 36, he wasn't famous, but every famous man in the industry knew his number. If a permit fell through, Malik fixed it. If a rival label tried to poach a singer, Malik whispered the right threat into the right ear. If scandal loomed, Malik buried it before sunrise. That was how he earned a seat beside the king. No one called the king by his government name anymore. He was a myth in mirrored shades. A producer, promoter, fashion icon, and self-appointed monarch of modern sound. He spoke in half-sentences that felt like prophecy, laughed like he owned the air, and surrounded himself with a moving constellation of models, moguls, and dreamers. His motto: if it isn't legendary, it's irrelevant. Malik first met him at a showcase in downtown Atlanta. The power went out mid-set, killing the night and the crowd's patience. Malik bribed a city inspector, found a generator, and had the lights back before the king finished his drink. When the music roared again, the king turned, smiled, and said, "You move like a man who's already made it." That sentence rewrote Malik's life. Within a year, he was relocated to L.A., managing logistics for the king's record label and private events. There were jets, penthouses, champagne fountains, after-parties that looked like war zones made of silk and sound. Malik learned to speak in code. Deliveries meant people. Arrangements meant silence. Family meant employees too scared to quit. He told himself none of it mattered. He was just the organizer, the invisible rhythm that kept the machine running. At first it felt like heaven. He woke in suites that smelled of new money, wore suits that cost more than his mother's mortgage. He told Gloria Reynolds, his mother, that he was working behind the scenes in entertainment. She never asked what scenes. But in the middle of that glitter, Malik sometimes caught himself staring at his reflection in tinted glass, wondering whose eyes stared back. In the parties, they called them celebrations of art, but everyone knew the parties were business. Deals were signed in whispers, loyalty tested with bottles and bodies. Malik's job was simple: make it look effortless. That was where he met Jade Morales, a PR assistant recently poached from a rival agency. She was 29, sharp-tongued, and too fearless for her own good. At her first event, she stopped a model from snorting coke in front of the camera crew and later scolded Malik for calling the king sir. "You make him sound royal," she said. "He likes that," Malik replied. Maybe that's the problem. They became a quiet team. She saw the humanity in Malik that he was trying to bury, and he saw in her the version of himself that had once believed success could be clean. Then there was Marcus Keyes Jefferson, the king's longtime producer. Keyes was older, heavier, the sort of man who spoke only through beats. He and Malik shared late-night cigarettes on studio balconies, watching stars fade behind city haze. "You ever wonder what happens when the music stops?" Keyes asked once. Malik shrugged. "We start another track." Keyes laughed without humor. "Some songs don't get a remix, bro." Malik didn't ask what he meant. The first rumor came from a dancer named Cassandra Cassfields, a lawsuit, quiet but explosive, filed against the king for assault. Malik read the paperwork in a conference room with frosted glass walls. Dates, locations, event details, they matched one of the parties he had coordinated. The king's legal chief, David Okoro, smiled thinly. "This will disappear in 24 hours, David said. "It's routine. Handle the optics." The settlement happened the same day. Malik thought that would be the end. It wasn't. A week later, a video surfaced online. Grainy hotel hallway footage showing the king shoving a woman. The internet exploded. Malik watched it alone, phone buzzing nonstop of messages from journalists and staff. An hour later, the king called. "I need you to contain this," he said. "Calm as ever. We release a statement. Regret, accountability, therapy, the usual script." Malik wanted to ask if the video was real. He didn't. The next morning, Jade cornered him. "You've seen it?" "Yeah." "And you're still here?" Someone has to clean up. At what cost, Malik? He had no answer. Then the pressure started. The empire began to shake. More women spoke up, echoing Cass's story. Federal investigators appeared at events, asking questions wrapped in politeness. Tabloids screamed the king's house of secrets. Malik's phone became a bomb. Texts from lawyers, producers, frightened staff. The king's paranoia grew. He canceled tours, fired security, demanded loyalty oaths disguised as NDAs. Inside the mansion, fear smelled like expensive cologne. Late one night, Malik found keys in the studio, deleting hard drive folders. You think that'll save you? Malik asked. I think it might save somebody, Keys said, eyes rimmed red. 2 weeks later, Keys disappeared from the roster. Rumor said he'd gone to feds. Malik wanted to believe otherwise, but when he noticed unmarked cars tailing him, denial lost its shine. When the raids began, Malik wasn't surprised, only numb. The king's compound sat on a hill above the city, glass walls reflecting sunset like fire. Reporters called it the palace. Malik called it the stage. Every corridor had a story. Every mirror had a camera. FBI agents in navy jackets poured to the gates before dawn, flashlights slicing darkness. Malik was cuffed, questioned, released. Detective Laura Stein, mid-40s, cool-eyed, handled the interrogation. You've been with him how long? 5 years. You organize everything? I handle logistics. Logistics like flight manifests, or logistics like silence payments. Malik stayed quiet. She leaned closer. You're a smart man, Mr. Reynolds. Smart men know when a kingdom is falling. He didn't reply, but her words followed him out of the precinct like a prophecy. Then the press started pestering. Enter Ethan Vale, a 30-something investigative reporter with coffee-stained shirts and a conscience that wouldn't quit. He cornered Malik outside a studio one afternoon. You don't have to be the villain. Ethan said, tell me what really happened. I'll protect you. Malik almost laughed. No one protects anyone in this game. Betrayal sets in. That night, Malik found Ethan's card still in his pocket. He didn't throw it away. David Okoro, the lawyer, called an emergency meeting. His tone was icy professionalism. The king is secure. We're managing exposure. But Malik, you need to go off-grid. Too much correspondence in your name. You're cutting me loose. I'm protecting you. Within hours, Malik's corporate accounts were frozen. His access passes revoked. He was erased from the empire he'd built. When he confronted the king, security blocked the gate. The only message that came was a single text. Hold the line. Brother. Jade found Malik drinking alone in a midtown bar. They'll scapegoat you, she warned. I know. Then fight back. Against what? Money? Power? God? She reached across the table, hand trembling. Against him. Before Malik could answer, her phone buzzed. Breaking news alert. Former producer Marcus Keys Jefferson cooperates with federal investigators. Malik stared at the headline until the letters blurred. Loyalty was supposed to mean safety. Now it meant target. That night, someone pounded on his door, a warning shot, 3 hard knocks, no voice. When he opened it, an envelope lay on the mat, a photo of him and Jade leaving the bar. On the back, 2 words scrawled in marker, stay silent. Malik packed a bag and drove east. Phone switched off, paranoia whispering in rhythm with the tires. He stopped at a gas station outside Palm Springs and stared at the desert stretching endless under moonlight. For the first time, he thought of leaving a new name, new country. But Gloria's voice lived in his head. Loyalty is armor. He didn't know that armor can also sink you. He turned the car back toward Los Angeles. 2 weeks later, a second clip leaked. This one longer, uglier. The king, surrounded by partygoers, shouting at a woman off camera. Then violence. Silence. The internet convulsed. Sponsors pulled out. The empire finally cracked. Malik watched it unfold from a cheap motel, heart heavy, guilt heavier. He knew the location. A penthouse he had personally rented under a shell company. His fingerprints were everywhere, metaphorically and literally. Detective Stein's voice from the interrogation echoed in his mind. Smart men know when a kingdom is falling. He realized he wasn't standing outside the fall. He was buried in its foundation. As dawn lit the motel's stained curtains, Malik dialed Ethan Vale's number at last. "You still want the truth?" "Always." "Then bring a recorder." Outside, sirens wailed faintly, mingling with the city's morning hum, a requiem for loyalty, for innocence, for the glow before the fall. When truth begins to burn, it doesn't choose what survives. Ethan Vale arrived at Malik's motel just after dawn. His car was dusty, his eyes bloodshot, his recorder blinking red. They sat across a small table between two untouched coffees. "Off record first," Ethan said. "There's no such thing anymore," Malik replied. He told the story from beginning. The first bribe, the coded words, the unspoken rules. Every confession was a wound opening. Ethan didn't interrupt. He only nodded, sometimes wincing when Malik's voice cracked. "You're saying you knew about the payments?" "Not all. Enough to feel dirty." "And the parties?" "Everything they're saying, it happened. Maybe worse." Silence thickened. Ethan stopped the recorder, his hand trembling. "Why now?" "Because I'm tired of watching ghosts eat dinner with the living." He passed Ethan a flash drive, documents, contracts, NDAs, payment logs. Evidence the feds had yet to see. Ethan looked at it like it was radioactive. "If this is real, you just made yourself the most hunted man in L.A. "Then I'm already dead," Malik said. Then the explosion. By Monday morning, the Chronicle published the exposé. Front page headline: "The Kingdom of Silence. Inside the Empire of Abuse, Lies, and Power." The internet caught fire. News anchors repeated Malik's name. Old colleagues deleted his number. Fans rioted online, some defending the king, others calling for his head. The hashtag dethrone the king trended worldwide. Jade called Malik from an unknown number. "They're saying you turned informant." "Maybe I did," replied Malik. "You don't understand. They'll destroy you," muttered Jade. "They already have," Malik shouted back. He hung up before she could say his name again. Later that evening, the king appeared on live television. Calm, suited, haloed by stage lighting. "I have made mistakes," he began, voice heavy with rehearsed contrition. "But betrayal from within is the greatest wound." He looked straight into the camera. "To those who build legacies with me, then burn them for applause, may truth find you." Every word was a dagger. Malik watched from his motel, expressionless. He could feel the nation shifting, face splintering, myths dying. When the king finished, half of America was still in denial. The other half demanded justice. The price of truth. Paying the price of truth. 2 nights later, Malik's motel door exploded inward, not with gunfire, but with agents. FBI, badges flashing, voices shouting. They cuffed him on sight, not as a whistleblower, as a co-conspirator. In custody, he met Detective Stein again. "You thought telling your story would make you clean?" she asked. "I thought it would make me useful. To the press, maybe. Not to the law." She dropped the file on the table. Wire transfers, fake invoices, flight logs. All signed by him. "You were the machine, Malik. The king just played the song." He looked at the photos of victims, their faces pixelated, their pain undeniable. For the first time, he wept openly. "I wanted to believe we were building something beautiful," he whispered. "You were," Stein said, "just not for the world you thought." Jade came to see him once before the arraignment. She wore black, hair pulled tight, eyes rimmed red. "They're turning you into the villain," she said. "Maybe I am." Malik responded, "No, you're just the one who stayed long enough to know," said Jade. She placed her hand on the glass partition, voice trembling. "They offer me a deal. Testify against you and the king. Immunity. You should take it." "And what about you?" "I made my choice when I stayed silent." She cried quietly. "You didn't have to be the hero, Malik. Someone had to be the witness." Now the man without the crown, in a mansion stripped of servants and silence, the king raged. His empire was disintegrating. Brands canceling contracts, music pulled from platforms, assets frozen. David, his lawyer, tried to reason with him. "We can negotiate a plea. Apologize. Frame it as rehabilitation. Rehabilitation is for addicts, not gods. You're not a god anymore. The king turned slowly, eyes cold. That night, he fled. Private jet grounded, bank accounts locked. But there are always escape routes for men like him. To the deal. Detective Stein offered Malik a bargain. Testify publicly, implicate the king, and reduce his own sentence. You can't save yourself entirely, she said, but you can save the truth. He hesitated. Ethan visited, voice urgent. If you testify, you end this for good. No one else has your records. And if I don't, asked Malik. History will call you his shadow, not his conscience, Ethan responded. That decided it. Malik signed the deal. Then began the trial of the century. The courthouse was a fortress of glass and history. Reporters swarmed like vultures in designer suits. The world tuned in, every network, every feed. The people versus. The king became the most watched event since any war. The prosecution built a story of systemic corruption. Women exploited, staff silenced, millions laundered. Malik's name threaded through it all. He sat in the witness stand for 3 straight days, voice cracking, describing scenes he once orchestrated. You organize these parties? Yes. You arrange payments? Yes. You knew what they were for? Eventually, I wanted to stop. I didn't. His honesty cut deeper than any accusation. Across the courtroom, the king watched with a half-smile, detached, almost bored. When cross-examined, he said simply, men like Malik are employees. Employees do as they're told. Malik looked at him and realized there was never a kingdom, only a throne surrounded by mirrors. Outside, protesters clashed. Some shouted justice of victims. Others screamed, free the king. The nation was divided not by politics, but by illusion. Ethan's editor called the case America's Moral Referendum. Talk shows dissected Malik's every word, his past, his motives. He became the reluctant symbol of complicity and confession. Meanwhile, Jade's testimony corroborated his. Her voice shook but held steady. She described the pressure, the fear, the silence that became culture. When asked why she stayed, she said, because leaving doesn't always mean freedom. The courtroom fell silent, and then came the verdict. After 49 days, the jury returned. The king was found guilty on multiple counts: assault, coercion, fraud, obstruction of justice. Sentenced to 35 years in federal prison. Gasps filled the room. Some cried. Some cheered. Malik sat motionless, tears streaking silently. For the first time in years, the king looked small, mortal, almost pitiful. As marshals led him away, their eyes met one last time. No anger, no forgiveness, just exhaustion. In the aftermath of trial, Malik's deal reduced his sentence to 5 years. He served 3, released early for cooperation. When he walked out, the world had moved on. The king's empire was dust, his music replaced by new gods with newer sins. Jade met him at the gate, older, calmer. You still think loyalty is armor? She asked. No, Malik said. It's a mirror. You just hope it doesn't crack while you're staring. They drove in silence toward the coast. The sun was setting, that golden, cinematic glow that once symbolized arrival. Now it meant survival. What will you do now? Jade asked. Tell stories. The real ones this time. About him. About all of us. How we confuse power for purpose. The wind carried their voices into waves. Behind them, Los Angeles glittered faintly. A city that never learned to tell truth without selling it. Months later, a documentary premiered. The Shadow of King. It was Ethan's work, but Malik's voice narrated it. Clips of parties, headlines, interviews, spliced with Malik's quiet confession. We built our lives on noise until silence became unbearable. The king fell, but the kingdom was never one man. It was all of us who clapped too long. The screen faded to black. Applause filled the theater. But Malik sat in the back row, unmoving. He knew the truth. You don't escape the shadow. You just learn to live where the light hurts less. The city had changed, but the skyline still glittered like a lie. 3 years after his release, Malik. Reynolds walked the same boulevards that once echoed with limousines and laughter. The billboards were new, but the rhythm was the same. Fame, desire, hunger. He carried no entourage now, only a camera and a notebook. His suits were gone, replaced by thrift store jackets and quiet eyes. Every corner whispered memories. He passed the old studio, boarded up, graffiti scrawled across the gates. Crowns fall. Inside his chest, something shifted, a phantom pulse. The sound of a past